Hello, I'm Timothy Linsdau. I'm a video producer and a Christian, and I'm paying attention to some theories of politics here today.
Yes. Is the theory impenetrable, separating church and state? I'm Jim Linsdau, Timothy's brother, journalist and a Christian. So let's take a look at this. Where is it that the church gets involved in politics?
And I would say probably everywhere, but not corporately, if you will, because everyone who is religious, and almost everybody is in some fashion, their thinking is framed and formed by their beliefs that they carry into politics, which makes it nearly impossible to have a theory of separation.
That's true. There are those who believe that even environmentalists exercise religion because their ideology is geared toward the environment, and so therefore their influence upon the government as far as the environment is concerned would begin to encroach upon the idea that church and state are separated and impenetrable.
That, on the surface, I think that's true, but I think in a sense many ardent environmentalists use their environmental beliefs as a religion. Now, how would I prove that? Well,
it isn't necessary to prove it any more than it's necessary to prove that you're a Christian. If you call yourself a Christian, then you are considered a certain faith by which the government is not to encroach upon that faith. You're free to practice that faith. But let's take an issue like abortion, where there have been attempts to regulate churches to require them to support abortion in one form or another, whether it's through taxation or if they're involved in hospitalization, that they have to perform these sorts of things. So politics encroaches upon religion in matters like that. So now, is it necessary for church to come forth to government and say promote a certain candidate or promote a certain ideology that keeps that separation between the two?
I think the argument you usually get from churches being involved in politics, in the pulpit, if you will, comes from their tax. What am I trying to say? Their tax-free.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. They're exempt from taxation in certain respects.
Yeah, as long as they aren't supporting a particular candidate, if you will, or a particular law, I guess, at the time. But when the government starts requiring them to have abortions, say, in their hospitals, or they're charging them money in some sense for abortion, that immediately is going to bring them into a battle with the government over their rights of association, if you will.
True. And is taxation or regulation a form of extortion against religion? Let's take a look at the idea that everybody in Congress, everybody or the president or judges or whatever have no religion. That's not true. We know that isn't true. We know that John F. Kennedy was a Catholic. People argued, can we really survive, or can we have a good government with a Catholic in office? How about a Jew? How about a Muslim? How about a Buddhist or something of that nature? Can you take your religion into politics with you and perform your duties without bringing your faith into it? I'm not sure that you can do that.
No, I'm not either. And as our religious protection of religion in this country, that no laws can be made against it, if you will, even though people attempt to do that. to make what's so-called secular decisions, such as abortion and other areas, to force churches to follow these government guidelines or requirements. So it's going to draw the church right into a direct battle with them as it is. But I don't know if it's as much a battle as it becomes politics, or the church becomes political, where they have to defend themselves. They have to engage the country. And that may be a problem from the past, that the church, or church members, are not engaging the country as they should. We want to hear all sides of an argument when we make decisions. So why wouldn't we want to hear from them?
Well, this is true. The problem that arises, I believe, is twofold. One, when politics gets into the issues of morality, and I don't know that politicians are necessarily good ones at determining what is moral and what the religions might think is immoral. And there are religions, say for instance Islam. Islam has Sharia law. That type of law is not in construct with our form of law, so we have conflicts in that respect, and we have to look at these issues as to determine, does the church stay out of politics when in fact the tenets of the church are being attacked? I don't see how they can. I mean, this happened in the Crusades. This happened in the Inquisition. These things have happened across the board and are part of history. And we see it even today in the issues, like you say, with abortion.
Well, and that comes back to our statement about the theory of separation. Now, from what we best can read and understand, the separation is not in the Constitution, but it really, from what I understand, came from a letter that Jefferson had written about the separation of church and state. And there are many groups of people who came to the United States centuries ago because of religious oppression in, say, European countries, and or state churches, and people didn't want to belong to a state church. They wanted to have their own church. So they thought, well, we'll come to America to get away from that. So we do not have a state church, but it has a tendency to look that way or lean that way when people bring their religion into the argument, which is pretty impossible for them not to.
Well, I think it is very definitely impossible because of the nature of mankind. Mankind, for the most part, has a faith in some form of religion, and that kind of faith is what guides them as through life. So whenever you have something that you believe deeply in, and the government tells you you either have to comply with the government in contradiction to that faith, then that's rubbing it the wrong way. If the church goes into the government and says, okay, from now on, you have to say the Lord's Prayer before you pass a bill, okay, that's another problem as far as religion encroaching upon politics. But there's always going to be that level, and people generally rise up whenever they feel that freedom of religion is being threatened.
So it is important that we have that freedom of religion. And it's important that we don't impose it politically on another. But the theory, the struggle, the separation must be coming in how we argue it, so that we're all arguing from a specific position that many of us learn from our religion. And that's how we're going to form our thinking. So there are those who may call themselves atheists or non-religious or free from religion, feel they're being attacked. But they have their opportunity to speak and vote freely as anyone does.
No, that's true. And in a country like the United States, where we have certain constitutional guarantees, of rights such as religion. I think the government has to monitor itself because some religions do have a dogma and some political ideas are a dogma in themselves, trying to manipulate society, if you will, into certain, quote, norms that the politicians feel are morally correct, when in fact they may be way off base as far as the spiritual morality is concerned.
And we use that spiritual morality to answer moral questions. That's where we get that from. And we can see that in the Declaration of Independence, of being freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, given by a creator. Well, that's saying something outside of us has given us those freedoms. So, is the theory impenetrable, separating church and state? No, I don't see that.
No, I'm sorry. That's just something we're going to have to debate from bill to bill and church to church.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm Timothy Linsdau. Like and comment on our video. Subscribe to my channel.
And I'm Jim Linsdau, and thank you for watching.